to talk Eternals because I really don't understand the level of hate this movie's getting. The god-awful score on Rotten Tomatoes, and then I'm looking at some of the reviews, and then I think back and I remember that I was seeing all these unfavorable opinions about the film before it even came out. And then, of course, those seemed to kind of increase tenfold once the movie came out, saying it wouldn't perform as well, saying it won't do this, saying it won't do that. And I noticed these reviews tend to factor out quite a few things that are different about this film that would probably segment that normal audience that Marvel normally captures. Marvel takes a step to be a little bit more reflective of basically a lot more people that this world encompasses. And then it gets all these bad reviews that claim that they're story-based, but I'm not so sure.
Things have gotten worse because the film was actually released. Eternals has been banned in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. And while I credit Disney for not editing out any content, Disney still does business there. The one thing no one is mentioning is it's still banned in China for probably a lot of the same reasons. Then there was those early box office projections. Screen Rant reported it was to be the highest grossing film in the MCU Phase 4, projected to get up to $100 million over its opening weekend, but after adjusting that projection last minute, it either soared to $69.5 million or it's a wake-up call for Marvel. The critic score is now 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that I really care what they think, I just find it amusing that they have turned on their masters. Now that they've had their say, it's my turn. Back in March of 2018, Warner Brothers announced that they were going to...
For one thing, you have an openly gay superhero, the first one in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and you don't think this is going to segment out the audience, kind of push away the homophobes? The fact that they promoted this film heavily around how diverse it was going to be probably segmented some people off too, because some people just don't like hearing about diversity. I don't know if they're tired of it, I don't know, but it just turns a lot of people off, I'm noticing. Some people just, I don't know if they just don't want to see certain people on screen, or they don't want to acknowledge that, hey, this is something different. Maybe it's because they're including Marvel's first ever sex scene. Something very different was done. Some people loved it, some people hated it. Times are changing. Marvel is okay with segmenting its audience to an extent, and it wants to give us a more adult feeling. It wants to grow up with the audience that jumped on when they first launched Iron Man. So I think all these moves make sense, and I really enjoyed the movie. The couple of people that I talked to that watched it also enjoyed the movie, and it just really, I really am struggling to understand why there's like this pile-on of it. It's so interesting because the same people that are, going crazy about Dune, mind you, I love Dune. I went ahead and bought the book because I need to know more. I need to know where the story's going next. They didn't have any problem with that introduction, with that story just, basically prepping us for another story. But they have a problem with the Eternals basically prepping us for another story. I don't know, maybe it is because we are in the midst of a pandemic, but you'd think that would factor into why they think the movie was gonna do so bad. Or even their thoughts now of why they think the movie is not gonna perform as well, even though it's only in its second week. I'm really curious about this. And mind you, of all the reviews I read, none of these people take into account all the previous things I mentioned that would possibly segment or possibly alienate previous Marvel audiences. This, I think, is the greatest direction for Marvel to go. Just makes me think, they're doing something right. They're shaking the table, they're stirring the pot. It's just coming from a very different perspective than normal Marvel movies. The aliens are, a lot more relatable. And with this film, you learn how these aliens become more relatable. They're in a sense becoming more human. They basically have to come to terms with their own existence, not knowing their purpose. And I don't want to get into spoilers, but there's a whole larger story that definitely puts a whole different spin on Thanos and what his purpose was. And doesn't make Thanos seem so bad. Even though Thanos was already making a good point initially, I feel like with this storyline, it was like, oh, well, thank you, Thanos. So it was, all of it was very different. They had some fascinating characters. And mind you, I feel like it's so hard to introduce all new, damn near, I want to say 9 or 10 new superheroes, new characters in general in one film. And I thought I got a very good understanding of who everyone was, what their pains were, what their aspirations were, and what I understood when the real tension started to happen, the real conflict started to hit in the story. I really understood why certain people went the way that they went. And I think another thing that might be bothering some people is the fact that there is really no good guy or no bad guy. At the end of the day, The Eternals was a very aspirational film with very lovable characters that are going to be sprinkled throughout the MCU. I mean, we can't get rid of Angelina Jolie as Thena. That was like one of the best superheroes in general. Just a lot of great characters and all these actors that I feel like everybody loves anyways. Throw them in this movie and they really give off this feeling of a family. And I thought that was beautiful. A very different kind of family, but a family nonetheless. And I'm excited to see more.